everybody, my name's Ella and I have just been offered tickets to go to one of the biggest races in the world, the Australian Grand Prix. I would really love to go. It's a great opportunity. However, I have one problem. I do not know much about the F1 or motor car racing in general. So I thought I would give myself a bit of a challenge and try and learn as much as I can about the F1 in 3 days and 3 hours to try and make sure that I do not waste this fantastic opportunity that has been offered to me. So I thought I would share my experience with you guys with trying to learn more about the F1 and maybe even become a fan of the F1, just because recently I know that the fan base in F1 has dramatically increased, and I want to see how they have managed to captivate a bunch of people who haven't been exposed to F1 before, and I myself, I believe, is the perfect subject. Where will I find value in this sport, and if I do, how have they managed to do that? I think is what I'm aiming to share with you guys. So let's see how I go. So I thought it'd be good to start off with what I do know about the F1. So I do not know much, but I think I understand the basic concept that it is a bunch of teams who produce cars and race them. The fastest wins. I know 2 of the race car drivers. I know that there's Ricardo, who is Australian, and I also know that Hamilton, he has won, I think, the most world championships in history. Those are the only 2 races I would be able to name off the top of my head. I have asked my friends for advice, who are what they may call F1 fanatics, about what I should do before going to see the race. I think every single one of them recommended that I watch Drive to Survive, which is a popular Netflix series and has gained a lot of new fans. So I feel like I'm going to try and binge that before I go. I also was told that I should watch qualifying races. I didn't even know the concept of qualifying races. A day or 2 before the races, they do laps, and pretty much to find the fastest car from this qualifying race gets to be their position on the final race day. The third thing that was recommended for me would be to catch up on all the previous races that have happened in this series to know who are the teams to beat. I think they mentioned Ferrari was doing really well, which is interesting considering that Mercedes has been the champions for a very long time. So the steps that I take to be an F1 fanatic is firstly, binge Drive to Survive. Secondly, make sure to watch qualifying. And third, I need to go Google F1 news so I can make sure I can catch up on all the previous races. So when arriving at the airport, it was buzzing. The first thing I saw walking into the airport was actually F1 ads for KO, an online streaming platform. I thought this was really clever marketing because obviously a lot of people there were going to the F1. I thought the ad was interesting how it was focusing on what we've been talking so much about this course, about trying to be a storyteller and how much equity that can provide for a brand. And the ad was highlighting how people watch the F1 not for the race itself, but the drama and the story of it. I found this really interesting because I believe that the Netflix documentary did exactly this as well. I believe previously, if you wanted to get into F1, you had to work a lot harder to find all the gossip and drama. For example, when I was looking for information on previous races, I had to look up keywords, I had to look through multiple articles, and I would only look at the ones that I thought were interesting. So I had to be a lot more active as a consumer. Whereas the documentary series has put it all in one place, You don't have to put much effort into sitting down and watching it, and it also gives you a variety of different things that you may not necessarily have watched or listened to if you saw it presented in a news article. Luckily, I was able to watch qualifying from the airport, which was great considering we had a 5-hour wait because of delays. First place had gone to Ferrari, followed by second and third place going to Red Bull. Luckily enough, we eventually made it to Melbourne. Melbourne was incredibly busy. 90% of hotels were booked out for Formula One weekend, which was unheard of. They also had record-breaking numbers at qualifying, and it very soon became apparent that this would be the same for the Grand Prix. Amazingly, the crowds did not only beat the Grand Prix record, it also broke the Australian record for the biggest crowd at a sporting event, this making it one of Australia's most popular sporting weekends in history. Merch stores were everywhere and they were often super busy. The McLaren stores had completely sold out of Daniel Ricciardo merch, which I found amazing considering that hats cost $80 and shirts often cost $200+. The Grand Prix had many other events other than the F1, such as the Porsche racing. They also had live music, an acrobatic air show, many stalls to buy food and drink. They also had many cars on display which you could buy. This all leading up to the main event, the F1, which was amazing to watch. Watching the drama unfold live was a thrilling experience which I will never forget. Seeing Carlos Sainz spin out on his first lap was honestly a lot more sad, as I felt I got to know him during the Netflix series Drive to Survive. But also seeing his teammate Charles Leclerc win the race was very exciting. It also gave the drama of Carlos being frustrated at Ferrari for having an underperforming car in comparison to his teammate Charles, whose car was performing perfectly. I definitely believe that my experience of Formula One was enhanced by the Drive to Survive documentary. Because a lot of Netflix was consumed over the COVID period, especially in Melbourne, as they had the longest lockdown period in the world, a lot of people would have eventually watched Drive to Survive. This article highlights how I was really good at engaging a lot of different demographics other than middle-aged men. There was a dramatic increase in female attendance, with in previous years being around 25%. This year increased to 40%. Overall, going to the F1 taught me a lot about marketing and how storytelling is so important. I don't think I would have really cared that much about the race if I did not know the story behind the drivers and the sport itself. And watching the Netflix series really helped me to do that. I am aware that the recent series has been criticised by some fans for over-dramatising the sport, not necessarily being 100% accurate. And I feel like this highlights the risks of not presenting a story authentically. However, I do believe that they are on the right track to focusing more on the storytelling side of the sport over just the race itself. Thus, storytelling is a must-have marketer's tool for engaging new consumers to actually care about their brand and be engaged with it actively.